Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new to this channel, I am Element.
I'm Darth Choco.
And we are Star Wars Loremasters. And today we're going to take a look at some exclusive
Breaking news. I mean, everyone's talking about this. My big concern is it feels like people are talking about the people who are talking about it. And like I always say, let's go to the source. And we'll break it apart and we'll see what's what. I just want to say, listen, I started doing web design in 2003. This looks pretty close to what I would have made on Dreamweaver back then. But that being said, the quality of the website doesn't necessarily mean the quality of the information. So let's jump into it. Also, like, it seems like a lot of people are taking what they've learned from other websites like StarWarsTime.net. But not coming back here to the source. So we always want to check this out.
So this is Star Wars Ahsoka exclusive, Young Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds. During the production of Star Wars Ahsoka, there was a code for a character I'm reluctant to share at the moment, but through this code, I was able to figure out and confirm Ahsoka Tano had different code names for the different eras of her story using different actors for those moments. Right off the bat, during the production of Star Wars Ahsoka, there was a code for a character. Is this Jason Ward? Were they part of the production? Like,
it could be part of the production. Could be trying to get background information. Either way, they're not being told anything directly, and it seems like they're putting pieces of a puzzle together, and this is their most logical take. Now, there might be more confirmation, but it's pretty nebulous.
It goes on to say, to be clear, there is another young actor playing Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars Ahsoka, and it is not the excellent Rosario Dawson, nor is it fan favorite actress Ashley Eckstein. I cannot confirm if Ashley Eckstein is voicing the young Ahsoka at this time. To be clear, these are glimpses or small sequences, and Dawson will play Ahsoka during the majority of the story. We, the audience, will get glimpses of Ahsoka in other times and eras via the World Between Worlds. There's a version of Ahsoka in her late teens, one for another undisclosed time. It might be present-day Ahsoka in terms of the narrative itself. And finally, for the version we saw in the final moment of Star Wars Rebels in her magical white robes. Didn't Rosario film that scene? Like, we see it in the teaser.
Yeah, so this is kind of weird because the logo for Ahsoka itself is the Virgin Scatter. The O in Ahsoka is a portal for the World Between Worlds. So I mean, I believe that part, but like we knew it, But it's interesting because in the teaser trailer, which I don't believe was ever actually released to anyone outside of Celebration,
right?
But we do see that scene was recreated.
Yeah, and it was Rosario. In that scene. My Darth Vader sources. Okay. What is a Darth Vader source?
I got a Vader guy. Who knows? Maybe it's because I do know in Obi-Wan there was like a couple stand-in Vaders and there was one person coordinating. Maybe they have an inside with them. But again, this is throwing darts off of my balcony and trying to hit stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
My Darth Vader sources have confirmed Ahsoka will fight Darth Vader in more than one way, and Hayden Christensen required some training for a sequence in the series because we will see his face again on screen, wearing the same costume he wore on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. We will see many possible outcomes for Ahsoka's life and how, in essence, no matter what, they all lead to a particular moment in her story. If Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Order, she would be the one fighting Darth Vader on Mustafar, having the high ground, not Obi-Wan Kenobi, because what happened had to happen. I'll go on. To get Tano to where she and the Skywalkers needed to be. I can also confirm Hayden Christensen filmed fight scenes with Clone Wars Ahsoka in this scenario. Through the World Between Worlds, it seems present-day Ahsoka will learn that Anakin Skywalker was destined to take the path he did, and we, the audience, will see aspects of those outcomes, and in some of them, we see live-action Clone Wars era Ahsoka Tano played by a new actor in a duel with her former Jedi Master, taking the place of Obi-Wan Kenobi in this reality that never was. Ahsoka will also see other visions in these sequences. Had Ahsoka killed Thrawn and Ezra Bridger, did not need to use the Purgle, Ahsoka's destiny remained the same. The lesson for Tano appears to be that she cannot change her destiny and instead she must embrace it. In essence, it sounds like Ahsoka works through her regrets. This is why she is centered in that piece when she's with Luke Skywalker. Que sera, or que sera. What will be, will be.
Que sera, sera.
Sorry.
This ain't Japanese.
I at least knew what it meant. This Ahsoka series is sounding pretty badass. This also sounding pretty damn lore inaccurate. Just right off the bat. It talks about timelines. Star Wars is multi-dimensional, not multiversal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to give some pretty good reasoning behind it. But you know what's really funny about this? I've seen people talking about like, yeah, they might use this to retcon the sequels. And like, that's literally the opposite of what this article is saying. It's saying that no matter what path happened, this is where we would go. So like all of that stuff would always remain the same to get the Skywalkers to where they needed to be. But this does seem to be like at odds with what George Lucas originally said. He said, you know, you have a destiny, but you can choose to take it. And that's what we've seen throughout, you know, all of Star Wars is just because you have the call to action, destiny may be asking you to take this call, doesn't mean you're going to do it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to succeed. But if you're following the will of the Force, that's when things will work out. But yeah, it seems weird. It seems weird. It's also disappointing a little bit because it feels like this is centering Anakin in the show Ahsoka, and that's what I was afraid of.
I'm not going to give any credence to this leak because there's a lot of problems with it. If Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Order, she would be the one fighting Darth Vader and Mustafar. Because what happened had to happen. That's just wrong. If Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Order, there's no telling what would have happened. We might have seen a different series of events play out. But the fact that you can assert she would be the one fighting on Mustafar seems a little bit reaching to me. I don't know. It reads so there's no clear way of knowing where they're getting this information. They say my Darth Vader sources. Yeah, if I'm being facetious, I'm like, what the hell does that mean? But like, is he part of the production? Does he have people inside on the production? Because right now, this leak just reads like someone's fan fiction.
Also, it's also important to note that even in their productions, the people who are part of their productions also don't know what's happening.
Right. I think it's standard practice at this point. They have like multiple scripts, right? I think they have dummy scripts.
Dummy scripts, dummy visuals. You know, I'm a little disappointed that Plo Koon didn't come back, but that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. Had Ahsoka killed Thrawn and Ezra Bridger did not need to use the Purgle, her destiny would have remained the same. By the way, Ezra and Luke were born days apart, right? There's no way they don't meet. There's no way that doesn't affect things. You know what I mean? Like,
I hesitate to say this because it sounds borderline gatekeepy, but it really does sound like fan fiction. Because again, like you said earlier, it's centered around everyone else but Ahsoka. The narrative, Ahsoka's in it, but the narrative is about other people's choices.
Yeah, the narrative that this paints, no matter what happened, Anakin would have fallen. She doesn't have to feel guilty for it, and that she can finally let that go. But that's still about Anakin. That's something to let the fans know that Anakin was always destined for this. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, would be like, so you can just shut up about Mace Windu now, right? But it still feels wrong, and I still want, like, I would feel gypped. Like, I want an Ahsoka story.
I feel like this is why it feels like fan fiction to me. They don't seem to understand Ahsoka's journey. If her show is narratively contingent on Anakin's story, because she went through it, right? Twilight of the Apprentice, she found out it was Anakin. They had their encounter. Now, does it make sense for Anakin possibly after Return of the Jedi to show up to Ahsoka and make amends and give closure? Yes, but her story goes further than that. She has more to play in her own story than Anakin does. I kind of feel like if you don't make this show about her learning about the Force through the World Between Worlds or through her, travails with Sabine and Hera, and I only say those two names because Hera was in the teaser and Sabine is cast, then like it falls back on the thing that we don't need the most, which is going back to the prequels.
Can you imagine if this was like a problem when the prequels came out? Because everyone only wanted original trilogy stuff. We can't only rely on nostalgia bait. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is a crutch. That's a negative. I think that's something people complained about in The Force Awakens, is it relied too much on nostalgia. There was whole member berries, and I don't want prequel member berries.
So when I read something like this, I see a whole bunch of problems lore-wise with Ahsoka's different eras and exploring her different outcomes in the World Between Worlds and exploring, the paths that she could have taken. Because the World Between Worlds, as it has been established, and you can read this in the Star Wars book, is just all of time at the same time. And it's not different streams of time. There's no different timelines. Ezra was always going to pull her out of that temple because we see in that very episode at the end, Ahsoka walking back into the temple at the end of that. And then when we get back to that point when Ezra is in the World Between Worlds, he pulls her out.
See her? Yeah.
They get separated and she goes through another portal, arrives where she arrives, and walks down that same path back when we saw it the first time.
Based off of this and what we know, I'm betting that we are going to see the World Between Worlds. We are going to see that moment from Ahsoka's perspective. And I think she's going to walk past portals and see different points in her life.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see alternate versions of scenarios. I think we are going to just see those different points. It sounds like Anakin Stan fanboyism is what a lot of this feels like to me. I could be wrong, but yeah, that seems weird.
At the end of the day, we all have to take any kind of leak with a grain of salt. There's no mention of any sources other than their Darth Vader sources, which is again iffy at best. And we have to realize that, sometimes people can just make stuff up. I mean, there's a whole YouTube channel out there, I'm sure you've seen them, of just making up leaks. And take it from two lore masters, what we're reading here does not line up with lore as it has been established. Now, of course, they can always come out with with Ahsoka, and they establish new lore and we have to update it. But as it stands right now, this doesn't seem like anything that Pablo or Filoni would write.
I mean, Filoni has an interview with Collider where he talks about how the World Between Worlds is not time travel and how you can't change the past. So yeah, it seems wild. I don't know.
This is a GeoCities website, and I hate to I hate to question the credibility of an article based on the way the website is designed, but it doesn't look like a website that does this very often, right? To close this video out, what you think could happen should they include Anakin and Obi-Wan? And I've said this on the Podwans podcast before. I feel like if they're going to include Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's just for closure. And they are not a significant part of the narrative.
Yeah, I'm even gonna make a separate video on this myself, but I think that it should just be like everything that's being explained here would be awesome for episode 1. Episode 1 establishes. Imagine this. We want Star Wars to be accessible. We want people who have not watched absolutely everything to not have to go back and do that. The World Between Worlds is a beautiful place to do that. We can see Ahsoka at different points in her life. We can understand her journey. We can come up to that point, and then we can let it go. And then we can start with what we saw in the teaser, which is exactly where most of the teasers all come from the first 1 or 2 episodes. But yeah, we can start there and then tell a new story with Ahsoka journeying out to find Ezra.
So I read through it while you were saying that. It just feels like they're centering on way too many people besides Ahsoka, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Thrawn, Ezra. At the end of the day, Ezra has been cast, right? So it's like he's part of the story. They're going forward, and that's what Ahsoka is going to be. I don't think we need to go back and revisit her life in the Clone Wars era. We've seen way too much of it, and we even got a season 7 finally to show her even her perspective in Order 66. So we don't really need to revisit it. And I would be okay with what you suggested with seeing moments in her life through the World Between Worlds.
I don't even want it to be episode 1. I want it to be episode 0.
A prologue. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be down for that if like they released like a story trailer and then they included a whole recap of Ahsoka's life. But yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. If there's any credence to what this article pretends, I guess. Because there's nothing here that seems credible on face value. Just a lot of my sources say.
I'm super excited for it. Just take these leaks with a grain of salt. I don't believe it. Ask yourself why they're saying these things. But also ask yourself if whatever they do with the Ahsoka show, it's got to be about Ahsoka.
Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like it. And stay tuned on Saturdays for our live show, DYAD in the Force. We take live calls on air. So stay tuned for that, 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays. But yeah, that's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We're all the Republic.
And may the Force be with you always.